Well, hey guys! In today's video, I'm going to share with you my top skincare product recommendations for oily skin. Today's video is sponsored by Walmart. I love Walmart, and I tell all my patients that pretty much all of the skincare products that I am recommending for them to go out and buy, that they can buy at Walmart, either in store or at walmart.com. Walmart Beauty has a wonderful collection of dermatologist recommended skincare. As a matter of fact, if you go to the Walmart website in the beauty section, they now have this new subsection of dermatologist recommended skincare products. Naturally, they have all of my favorites: CeraVe, Neutrogena, Cetaphil, and they're always adding new brands, and they have a lot of brands, surprisingly, that are difficult to find and are more on the expensive side that you may have a hard time sourcing. You can actually get at walmart.com. Within this dermatologist recommended section, they've also done a really nice thing in that they've broken up the products into different categories for specific skin conditions like acne and psoriasis. So that's one thing that I really love about what Walmart has done on their website, and they always have a great selection in stores. You guys know I shop in Walmart a fair amount, and I love going in there and going through the skincare products with you. And the employees are always super friendly, and I've just always had a great shopping experience with Walmart. And personally, I've been a Walmart shopper since I was a child. That was the store that we got all of our stuff at, and so I've continued to be a Walmart shopper. Anyways, getting into this video, what skincare products am I going to talk about? I'm going to break it up into categories. First, cleansers, then moisturizers, then sunscreens, and then I'm going to talk about skincare products with active ingredients that are specific for your oily skin needs. Now, oily skin can be due to just your genetics. Some people have larger oil glands, they make more oil. Another factor that plays a big role in oil production and oiliness is our hormones. That's why around your menstrual cycle, if you're a female, you may notice that your skin is oilier. If you have acne, a lot of people with acne tend to make more oil, and that's actually a part of the acne. So all of these products are very acne friendly and useful for people who have acne, but they're also going to be helpful for people who don't have acne and just happen to have oily skin, either by genetics or related to hormones. In the first category, I have cleansers, and they're intended to remove dirt, oil, sebum, and specifically for people with oily skin, they're really good at the sebum removal part. The first is the CeraVe Hydrating Cleanser. I love this one. It's fragrance-free, as are all of my recommendations. And it has ceramides in it, so it can kind of help in addressing your skin barrier. Another great one that I've recommended numerous times is the Neutrogena Face Wash. This one also, again, fragrance-free, and it doesn't have ceramides in it, but it's very gentle, and it does a really good job in removing oiliness. And then a third one that I have chit-chatted with you about episodically, but I find is really good for oily skin, is the La Roche-Posay Toleriane Purifying Foaming Cleanser. And like CeraVe, this has ceramides in it as well. So, you know, whether or not having ceramides in a cleanser is necessarily super helpful, I don't know. You know, the idea of putting ceramides on your skin is more useful in the setting of a moisturizer, but they can't hurt, and it's kind of nice to have them in there as you are inevitably stripping away some of your natural skin barrier with cleansing. It kind of helps to have those in there to kind of address that issue. If you have oily skin, do not fall victim to the false belief that moisturizers are going to make you oilier. Moisturizers do not equate to oil production. They have nothing to do with that. They don't affect hormonal signaling. Putting a moisturizing cream on your skin does not affect your hormones and does not affect oil production. It doesn't enlarge your oil glands. It doesn't do anything to dictate the rate of sebum production. However, what it does do is help in restoring the skin barrier and keeping your skin hydrated and healthy, which is very important, especially if you're using a lot of products that are aimed at removing some of your oil. Your skin barrier can actually suffer a little bit in doing that. It's a challenge, though, with oily skin to find a moisturizer that's comfortable, that doesn't feel greasy or heavy on top of your already oily skin. Choose products that are labeled oil-free. That often can be a helpful starting point. It's largely a marketing term, but I find that it tends to speak to the fact that the moisturizer is formulated with silicones, which have a nice, more lightweight feel on the skin, and people with oily skin find they're more comfortable. It's not to say that silicones are safer for oily skin than mineral oil. Both are fine, but overall, people with oily skin tend to find that the oil-free moisturizers with silicones are more comfortable for them. A great one that I've always recommended to you guys is the Neutrogena Oil-Free Moisturizer Sensitive Skin. I specify sensitive skin because this one is fragrance-free. I actually think all of the Neutrogena moisturizers are fragrance-free. But yeah, this is just very lightweight. It works really well to the face, doesn't feel greasy or heavy, and is non-irritating, doesn't sting. I haven't used it in a while, but I've used this for many years. I used this in college and in med school. It was my go-to moisturizer. I mean, I use this consistently for about 10 years, and I use it again from time to time to make sure my recommendation still is, I can still recommend it, and it's never let me down. So this is a great one, and it's on my list that I give patients with acne as a moisturizer that I recommend that they go get, especially when they are using something like Retin-A that causes a lot of dryness and peeling. That's something that I like for them to try and use. Now, while silicones are great, and for people with oily skin, they tend to feel better overall, some people don't like silicones in their skincare products. They find that they're irritating to them for whatever reason. I have a video all about silicones, so check that out if you want to know more about them. But if you find that you just don't get along well with silicones, then a moisturizer that I recommend giving a whirl is the Cetaphil Daily Hydrating Lotion. This too is fantastic. This or CeraVe PM. I don't currently have CeraVe PM, but that is another one that's kind of similar to this as far as consistency. But the CeraVe PM also has ceramides in it and niacinamide. Now, in contrast to CeraVe PM, while they're similar consistency, some people find that CeraVe PM stings. This does not for more people. And I think that stinging sensation has to do with the fact that probably the CeraVe PM is a little bit more acidic in comparison to this, and that can sometimes sting. So if you have particularly sensitive oily skin, try this one. It's pretty, it's pretty gentle and comfortable to wear. So we've got Neutrogena, Cetaphil, CeraVe PM. You can't go wrong with Vanicream brand for anything, regardless of what your skin type is. This is always on all my lists of recommended products for patients that I give to patients, the Vanicream brand, whether it be their moisturizing cream, which is a lot heavier, or this lotion that I'm recommending to you guys with oily skin. This is great. You can use it on your face, your body. Very minimal ingredients, and again, it's got silicone. This one's got silicones in it, so it has less of a greasy feel to it. I strongly recommend this one. And some people do find that this stings a little bit, and I think it might have to do with the propylene glycol in this. That's not a bad ingredient. It's actually a humectant, but it can sting a little bit. So, that could be a reason for stinging, but otherwise this is so good. I recommend this to people with eczema all the time. I mean, it's something that I, always default to. In other words, this or their cream as far as moisturizers. Moving on to sunscreens. You can't go wrong if you have oily skin with either different moisturizer, oil absorbing moisturizer with sunscreen SPF 30, or a sunscreen that's formulated nearly identical to this is Cetaphil's Derma Oil Control sunscreen. I'll show you guys a picture here, and I'll also list it down below. They're actually identical. I mean, they're formulated the same way. So in other words, if this is sold out, get the Cetaphil one. They're the same thing. But this is a chemical sunscreen, so it has chemical filters that will protect you against UVA and UVB quite well. And it's very lightweight, not greasy, and there's no cast with this because it's a chemical sunscreen. It doesn't sting around the eyes for me, although chemical sunscreens can sting a bit, but this has a nice matte finish, and it, as well as the Cetaphil version, they both have starches in them that help in kind of absorbing excess oiliness and greasiness. So they have a mattifying effect, which I find people with oily skin really are looking for and seeking in their sunscreen. Strongly recommend these. If you want a really matte sunscreen though, a sunscreen you can't go wrong with is EltaMD's UV Clear. This has niacinamide, which is helpful for redness and oiliness. It's anti-inflammatory, and the active sunscreen ingredients in this are zinc and octinoxate. So zinc will protect you against UVA and UVB, and then octinoxate will also protect you against UVB. This is very matte. As a matter of fact, while I don't have oily skin, but I do tend to get along well with oily skincare products, I actually find this a little too drying for me. But for people with oily skin, they're always like, oh yes, I must have this product. It's a must. It's really good for oily skin, super matte, and offers really nice protection. I actually can wear this comfortably here in Houston in the summer when it's so humid. In the winter, if the heater is on, it's too dry for me. So in other words, it's super matte. And I think those of you who are looking for a really matte sunscreen will love this. They also make a tinted version of this. But the tint I find doesn't go over so well with as many people. I find it's kind of a little in the yellowish hue, and I don't know, that doesn't work well on my skin type. I wish I had more tints available for this, but the cast on this is pretty minimal to non-existent. It's a combination sunscreen, so the cast that you get with combination sunscreens, and by combination I mean that zinc and a chemical filter, the cast that you get with that tends to be a lot, pretty dim. If you have a really dark skin type, you're gonna see a little bit of it, but you can easily camouflage it with a tinted sunscreen on over it or a tinted BB cream. Yeah, this is a great one with that matte finish. Now, I mentioned that in college and med school, I wore Neutrogena's oil-free moisturizer sensitive skin as my nighttime moisturizer, and as my daytime moisturizer and sunscreen, I always wore Neutrogena Clear Face Breakout Free Liquid Lotion. And I recently repurchased this because I wanted to make sure it was still as comfortable and wonderful as it was in the past for me, and I love it. The reason I love Neutrogena's chemical sunscreen so much is that they stabilize their filters with Helioplex. And so that allows you to have a more stable sun protection over time, and I really like that. Their sunscreens, however, can sting a little bit, but this particular one, the SPF 30, is pretty comfortable. I've always had no issue putting this one around my eyes, but some of Neutrogena's chemical sunscreens, they do sting and burn a little bit, but I don't find that to be the case with this. It's water resistant up to 80 minutes, so I like this one for everyday use. If you're somebody who is mostly indoors during the day, but you do commute and you're in your car a few times a day, I really like this because the water resistance and the fact that the chemical filters are stabilized with Helioplex, it gives you some assurance in between throughout the day that you've got a little bit more lasting protection. This is not greasy, I really like it, and it has a matte finish, but it's not as drying as the Elta MD one, and so this is a good one to consider. So those are 4 sunscreens for you guys. Moving into active ingredients though for oily skin. If you have oily skin, you might want to consider using a vitamin A derivative, either retinol or adapalene. And the reason for this is that retinols can help in not only cell turnover and normalizing skin barrier function, but they also can help in controlling oiliness. They are drying and they can be very irritating, but over-the-counter adapalene gel is probably one of the gentlest and most biologically active vitamin A derivatives that you could entertain the idea of using. I have numerous videos on this product, but it's best to use this if you're interested. You want to use it at nighttime to a clean face. I have videos showing how to use it, so check those out. But it can be drying and irritating in the beginning, so I recommend trying this just a few nights a week in the beginning for a few weeks, and then bumping it up to maybe every other night for a few weeks, and then bumping that up to nightly as tolerated as you're going through the dryness and peeling with this. But that tends to normalize after about 6 to 8 weeks. And then most people can move on to using it daily. But this can help in controlling oiliness. When you apply this though, just make sure you don't get it around your eyes or around your mouth. And I show how I help prevent that in my skincare routines focused on this. I just use a little bit of CeraVe healing ointment to kind of create a barrier. But yeah, that definitely can help in cutting down oiliness. If you find this product, however, too drying and irritating, consider using a retinol instead of adapalene. Retinols are a little less biologically active, and they tend to, and because they're a little less biologically active, it just kind of means that you've got to use them for longer to see an outcome. but they are less irritating. My favorite and the one that I recommend to you guys is the CeraVe Resurfacing Retinol Serum. I love this for not only oiliness with the retinol, but this is really also good for people who have dark spots and discoloration related to healing acne. It will help in turning over the top layer of the skin and removing some of that hyperpigmentation. And it also has niacinamide in it, and that, as I mentioned already, is anti-inflammatory, but it also can help in hyperpigmentation. So this is a really wonderful product. Use it the same way I mentioned as using adapalene. Just start really slow in the beginning, a few nights a week, then bump it up to every other night, then nightly. And again, use it at night. The reason to use these at night is if you use them in the daytime, they degrade with light exposure and UV exposure. So it's best to use them at night. And you definitely want to put them on a clean face. And in my videos, I show how I wash my face, I put on moisturizer, and then I allow the moisturizer to dry, and then I put these active ingredients on. So check those videos out, but the moisturizers that I mentioned in this video are good ones to pair with either adapalene or retinol. Another active ingredient you might want to give a try though is benzoyl peroxide. This is an acne medication that can help in cutting down some of the oiliness. If you've got mostly oily skin and no acne, you can still consider using this. Maybe just a few nights a week to kind of degrease the skin. It really can help. And the way I suggest using benzoyl peroxide is in a wash form. I love the brand Panoxyl, their creamy 4% wash, or CeraVe has recently released, and I've reviewed for you guys, their acne foaming cream cleanser. They're pretty similar. This one is a little bit more gentle for people with very sensitive skin, I've noticed, as opposed to this one. And this one's a little less drying than this one, but both can be drying. The way to use these though, if you just want to use them to help with oiliness and not necessarily for acne, is to consider using them a few days a week as sort of a mask almost. Lather them to areas where you have a lot of oiliness and let them sit on the skin for a few minutes and then rinse off. This short contact time will help in degreasing the skin, and it also imparts some anti-inflammatory control. After you rinse them off though, just make sure you put on a moisturizer on the skin, because these can be super drying. And remember that moisturizer is not going to make you oily. These are going to strip off the oil, and then the moisturizer is going to help in addressing your skin barrier. So don't be afraid to use these with moisturizer is what I'm getting at. You can also use these in the shower at nighttime if you want. Just lather to the affected area, and again, let them sit on the skin for a few minutes and then rinse off. And the other reason that I like using them as a wash form that you don't leave on for like a long period of time is that you rinse it off. And then an issue with benzoyl peroxide, as you may know, is that it can bleach your fabrics. But if you use a wash form like this and you rinse it off of the skin, you escape that issue. And so that's why I really like the wash forms. Plus they just tend to be less irritating. If you don't get along with benzoyl peroxide for whatever reason, I mean, obviously it can be super drying and a little irritating. Another product that I want you guys to consider using, and the last one I'm going to recommend, is the Derma Control Purifying Clay Mask by Cetaphil. I reviewed this for you guys in other videos, but it's a nice mask that will really help in cutting down on oiliness. You can use it a few nights a week. This is a very effective kaolin clay mask. Kaolin is a clay that will help in wicking up, absorbing oil off the surface of your skin and from within the pore as it sits on your skin and sets up, and then you rinse it off. And overall, the formulation is also pretty moisturizing. So, you know, you can find a lot of these clay masks and they tend to be super drying, but this one is really well formulated. This is really nice for reducing shininess. You can also use this if you wake up in the morning and you're really shiny. You can use this first thing in the morning and then rinse it off and put your sunscreen on. Any of the sunscreens that I mentioned. As a matter of fact, the Cetaphil sunscreen I was talking about is in this line, the Derma Control. So I'll list that down below, but yeah, you could use this in the morning to just really the greasiest parts of your face even, and then rinse it off and then put on your sunscreen, and that'll give you a good kind of degreasing and oil control for the remainder of the day. Those are my recommendations for oily skincare. As always, I want to emphasize to you guys the importance of keeping your skincare routine simple and largely focused on a gentle cleanser, a moisturizer, and a sunscreen. Sunscreen is the most important thing. Protecting your skin from ultraviolet radiation will pay off dividends in the long run. And if you've got acne, as many people with oily skin do, protecting your skin from the sun can actually help protect you from future flares of the acne. But that's really one of the most important things to dial down is moisturizer, sunscreen, and a cleanser. However, the products with active ingredients like benzoyl peroxide, adapalene, retinol, and kaolin can all be really useful in addressing oiliness and treating acne. So these are also great things to consider incorporating as well. And I love that Walmart has really made it easy in kind of collating acne-specific skincare products that are derm recommended on their site. So check that out. It's really useful that they've done that. Thank you, Walmart, for sponsoring today's video. Check my description box. I will link all of these products down below for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and as always, don't forget, sunscreen and subscribe. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye.